Parshas Ki Savo, Tavshin Pei Beis. We're here now about a week and a half before Rosh Hashanah. Amazing how time is moving by. This month of Shabbos, in case anybody doesn't remember, this month of Shabbos, we're going to begin saying Slichas. And before you turn around, we're here for Rosh Hashanah, so we'll continue to prepare. This week, we're going to speak more about the Parsha than about Rosh Hashanah. Beginning of this week's Parsha, very beautiful, beautiful mitzvah and a lesson. And the Torah tells us, V'haya ki savoy ala aretz. When you come to Eretz Yisrael, Asher Hashem alekecha noisein, you're going to come to Eretz Yisrael, the land that Hashem noisein l'cha gave to you, nachala, v'rishta, you'll inherit the land, v'yashavta bo, you're going to live in Eretz Yisrael. So the Torah tells us what you should do. V'lokachta mereshis kol priyo adama. The mitzvah of Bikurim, that when your fruits grow in the Shivas Haminim in Eretz Yisrael, so you take the first of the fruits, right? And we go through the entire mitzvah of Bikurim. And there's a very interesting Maimar Chazal in the Sifri about Bikurim. And the Sifri says, Asay mitzvah ha'amura, do this mitzvah, the mitzvah of Bikurim we're talking about, be'inyan shebischara tikanes la'aretz. The reward for mitzvahs Bikurim will be that you'll be zoicha to come into Eretz Yisrael. You'll be zoicha to go into Eretz Yisrael. So of course, right away, the Mefarshim asked on this Sifri, we know that Bikurim was only brought years after they came into Eretz Yisrael. 14 years later was the first time that they were going to bring Bikurim. So they had already been in Eretz Yisrael for a number of years. What does it mean that in the schus of the mitzvah of Bikurim, they'll be zaycha to enter Eretz Yisrael? They were already in Eretz Yisrael. Another question the Mefarshim ask, what does this entire Maimar, what does it actually mean? Because if you think about it, why would the mitzvah of Bikurim be different than any of the other mitzvahs hatzluyos ba'aretz? Why would the mitzvah of Bikurim be so unique, so special, that because of the mitzvah of Bikurim, you're going to be able to get into Eretz Yisrael? Okay, granted, we have the question that they were already in Eretz Yisrael, but why is Bikurim different? What about the other mitzvahs? Ma'aser Rishon, what about Ma'aser Sheni, Ma'aser Ani, great mitzvahs where you actually give more of yourself than you do for the mitzvah of Bikurim. We know the mitzvah of Bikurim does not have a shiur, right? You say it every morning, Elu dvarim she'en shiur, hapeya v'abikurim. But the mitzvah of Bikurim, you could be yoyt to the mitzvah with any small amount. So why is it that the mitzvah of Bikurim is so special? Maybe Ma'aser Rishon should make you zoicha, be zoicha to get into Eretz Yisrael. Ma'aser Ani, Ma'aser Sheni, you're giving more of yourself, right? Why can't it be any one of those other mitzvahs? So Nesivos Shalom answers this with a beautiful, beautiful thought. You know, the Svarim HaKadoshim tell us, and this is a lesson also for Rosh Hashanah, a lesson for this time of the year. The Svarim HaKadoshim tell us that the tachlis of Avodas Hashem is that a person should come to Bittul HaYeshus. That a person should serve Hashem. Why? So you should realize that we ourselves are nothing. We have no power. We have no influence. We have no say. Everything is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything is Hashem. And that is what is behind Avodas Hashem. And really, the Balei Musar tell us, and the Musar Sfarim tell us, that every bad midah and every taiva that a person could go wrong with comes from midas hayeshus. It comes from thinking that we ourselves are something. Because what are we doing? when we have a taiva, when you have a bad midah, what are you doing? You're feeding the animal. Like you feel that you're something, and you deserve something, and you want something. So now you have to feed that taiva. You have to be over things. You have to do things, and that's every bad midah and taiva actually comes from people thinking that they are something. The Baal Shem Tov says a beautiful drush on the words by the in Parshat Vayeschanan, by the where it talks about the S.S.S. again. The Torah tells us, "Anoichi oimed bein Hashem uveinechem." That's the pasuk. Zok the Baal Shem Tov, a beautiful word. He says, "Anoichi." A person thinking that they are something. If you're thinking Anoichi, it's about me, that I'm something. That's what's oimed bein Hashem uveinechem. That's what stands in between. That's the interference. That's what stands between a person and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You, a person, Anoichi, the more you consider yourself, the more distant, the more you have that interferes between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it's our job really to work on this midah all the time of understanding that we are not the ones who accomplish or do anything. Everything we do is with the chesed of Hashem, the way of Hashem. It has nothing to do with us. It's all an illusion to think that we are something, that we have any power. What we need to do, and we think about it so much at this time of the year, when we say HaMelech, when the Rebbeinu Shalom on Rosh Hashanah, we're much more conscious and cognizant of this. What we need to do is we need to permeate our entire being with the knowledge that we have absolutely no control over anything. The Rebbeinu Shalom gives us the feeling, because we shouldn't feel like we're doing nothing. So Rebbeinu Shalom gives us the feeling that we go through the motions and makes us feel like we're doing something. But essentially, we have no power. We don't do anything. The Gemara, Masechta Soita, Daf Hey Amud Aleph, tells us that Hashem says something very interesting about people that think that they are something. Hashem says about Bali Gaiva, the Gemara tells us, that Ein Ani V'hu Yecholim L'Dor. A very interesting thing. Hashem says, even if you're Mekayim the whole Torah, you're Mekayim everything, all the mitzvahs, but if you're a Bal Gaiva, if you think you're something, and it's a pretty scary thought, Hashem says that I, Kaviyachol, cannot live in the same world, I cannot be in the same place as this person who is full of themselves. And you know, by other serious transgressions, by other serious averas, if someone is over averas in the Torah tells us still, Hashem says, Hashechen itam b'soich tumoisam, that Hashem is still with you no matter what you do, no matter what you do, no matter where you've been. Hashechen itam b'soich tumoisam. Hashem says that no matter what you've done, I am still with you. I'm there in the Tumah with you. I will never leave you alone. I will never desert you. And yet, we see the Gemara in Soita tells us that if a person is a Baal Gaiva, Hashem says, I cannot exist with this person. I cannot be in the same world. Why? What's the reason? Why is Baal Gaiva different? Because Gaius is Yeshus, like we said. It's about me. And if a person keeps thinking that everything is about me, and whatever I do is me, you know what that means? That means that it's not about Hashem. And that is also why the Chazal tell us, Kol ha-misgoeh ki'ilu oved avodah zarah, that if a person is a Baal Gaiva, it's as if you're oved avodah zarah. Why? Because you're attributing power to yourself. And if it's about yourself and it's about you, then it's not about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Hashem, we know, is Ein Oid Milvadoi. So if a person is a Baal Gaiva, if a person has Midas HaYeshus, it's as the Gemara tells us, Hashem says, I cannot exist, I cannot live in the same place as this person. The Sifri in Devarim Yud Beis tells us that the mitzvah of Yeshivas Eretz Yisrael, the mitzvah we were just discussing here before, when's the next time we could get on a plane and run back to Eretz Yisrael? Hopefully we could all do it together very soon with Mashiach. But Chazal tell us, the Sifri brings down that the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael is Shekula Kechol HaMitzvah Shabbat. It is equal, on par with all the other mitzvahs in the Torah put together. And it's very interesting, you know, Eretz Yisrael has another name, right? The name in the Torah given to Eretz Yisrael is Eretz Canaan. Eretz Canaan, says the Nesivos Shalom, tells us that it is a land for those who are nichna'im, for those who subordinate themselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to those who are humble. And only one who is nichna themselves actually gets to feel Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. So the next time you go to Eretz Yisrael, understand that the more humble you are, and the more you realize that everything is about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are going to feel Kedushas Eretz Yisrael more than anyone else. You see, the Meraglim could not go into Eretz Yisrael because the Meraglim were Rashi B'nai Yisrael Hema. They held of themselves. They held of themselves as high people. Only Yeshua ben Nun, who was an Anav, was able to go into Eretz Yisrael. Because Eretz Yisrael only accepts and connects with people who understand that we are nothing. It's all about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that is pshat in what we said at the beginning of the shir about the mitzvahs bikurim, about the mitzvahs bikurim is the schus to be able to go into Eretz Yisrael. You need to understand the fundamental of the mitzvah of bikurim is being mevatel oneself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We spoke about Geus, and we spoke about Yeshus, and then we spoke about person being mevatel themselves to Hashem. And that's what mitzvahs bikurim is. Because look what a person does. A person works on their field. A person works the entire year, of course not this year during Shemitah, right? But a person works on the field, waters it, cultivates it, whatever you have to do. You sow, you plant, whatever. You put so much work into the field, and then you finally have your first fruit. So you go out into the field, and what do you do now? You go out into the field and you say, no, this is not for me, because it's not about me. None of this came about because of my work. It's not me. This first fruit, it's about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I'm going to give this to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're saying that I myself am nothing. I have no power. So you attach that string to the fruit, and you're mevatel your wants and your needs, and you're mevater on that pleasure of having the first fruit, and you say, this is for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that is what Avodas Hashem is. Avodas Hashem, as we said, is being mevatel the midas hayeshus, being mevatel yourself to the will and the wants of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we asked, they were in Eretz Yisrael, they were already there? Yes. Ein Hanami, they were in Eretz Yisrael already. But the kiyum, being able to stay in Eretz Yisrael, and each year and each day that we're there is a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is totally in the idea of Bikurim, where we mevatel ourselves and we are Oyven Hashem through being mevatel ourselves from throwing out Amidas HaYeshus. And that's something we have to think about. Now we come especially to Rosh Hashanah, Aseret Yemei Tshuva, to Yom Kippur. The idea is to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's all about you. It's not me. It's about time we realize it's not my money, it's not my possessions, nothing. Everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that is the lesson toward Rosh Hashanah that we learn now from the mitzvah of Bikurim in our parsha.